the Pique rib knit stitch pattern. Hello, I'm Kristen and welcome back to my channel, Studio Knit. Pique is a French word. It means backstitched, and pique is known as a stiff fabric which is typically woven in a strongly ribbed or raised pattern. And you'll see that we have the vertical lines that we have in ribbing, but there's this little pique that goes across horizontally that allows our piece to lie perfectly flat. This pattern is a 4-row repeat. It's easy level, perfect for everybody who's completed my Absolute Beginner Knitting series because we are simply using knits and purls. This is not a reversible pattern because the right side, the front side, it looks different than the wrong side, which is the back side of our work, but it also looks really nice with these straight vertical lines going down the back. So I think this would be a great project for a really elegant scarf. And if you like this pattern and what I do on my channel, please like it up, subscribe, it really helps me out. For the written pattern, you can head on over to my website. I have a link in the description below. The pattern is written out there for you, totally for free. I've also included a knitting chart, so if you'd like to start learning how to read charts, then these simple patterns are a great way to start doing that. This pattern is also included in my Knit Stitch pattern book, available for purchase over on Etsy. It's a downloadable PDF that you can print out. You also can have it saved on any mobile device or desktop as well. And for our materials, we are going to be using yarn. You can use any size you'd like, appropriately sized knitting needles. Of course, you want to have scissors and a tapestry needle on hand. If you'd like to know the exact materials I'm using in this video, I will link to those in the description for you. So let's knit it up. We begin with our beloved slip knot. Using the long tail cast on method, I am casting on in multiples of 3 plus 2. So cast on 3 stitches and just continue casting on in multiples of 3 until you have your desired number of stitches cast on your knitting needle. Now, the plus 2 means once you have as many stitches that you'd like on that needle, you just add 2 more, so just an extra 2 stitches at the end. Row 1 of our 4-row repeat is knitting 2 and then purling 1. So we begin by knitting 2 stitches, and then we are going to, of course, bring our working yarn to the front to do that 1 purl stitch. And you'll see those little stars, those little asterisks in patterns. That means you are repeating that pattern. So we're going to go all the way down the row. Let's do it again. We're going to, let's see, scooch up my stitches and knit 2 stitches right here, and then bring the yarn to the front, and we will purl 1 stitch. And we continue this pattern all the way down the row. Now, remember those last 2 little stitches that we cast on? All we do here on row 1, once we get to the end, is we knit those last 2 stitches. You'll see the K2 right after the asterisk. That means those last 2 stitches, you knit 2 stitches. And here on row 2, we're going to be purling those purls and knitting those knits. And if you're not familiar with that, no worries, just follow the pattern. So here on row 2, since a purl stitch is what we're starting with, our yarn is in the front, and we are purling these 2 stitches right here, and then we bring our yarn to the back behind our needle and do that 1 knit stitch. And we just continue this pattern all the way down the row. And then at the very end, after we complete the pattern between the asterisks, we are just finishing up with those 2 purl stitches this time. So purl 1 and purl 2. Row 3 is an exact repeat of what we did on row 1. So it's knitting 2 stitches and then purling 1 stitch between those asterisks, repeating this all the way down the row, and finishing, you knit 2 stitches. And you're going to love this. Row 4, all we do is knit all the way across the row. And remember when we talked about pique, meaning backstitch? Well, I think that's why this is called a pique rib knit stitch pattern, because we have this 1 row of backstitching, of purling essentially, that will be shown on the front of our work here on row 4 when we are just knitting all the way across the row. I hope you are inspired to knit up this really easy pique rib knit stitch pattern. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you here next time, guys. Bye!